And then, all right, Gavin, thank you very much for finding the time to talk to us about this wonderful topic of domain discovery.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Great to see you all today. Thanks so much for taking your time. Jonas is threatened with 40 slides. They're really quick. I talk really fast, so I hope there'll be some time at the end for questions. We're going to look at domain discovery. If I look back 2 years to some warmer days in terms of 2019, we were in Aarhus and with Jonas's conference and won the Small Feature Award for this topic that we're going to discuss today. Today is about really the evolution since then of that with our customers, and the whole topic is pretty cool. So I hope you enjoyed it. This is us at the dinner after the awards. Lots of people and lots of fun, and I hope that we can all be there in November this year. So why is domain discovery so important? Basically, in a nutshell, it's brand protection. It's looking after your organization digitally. We have so digital litter now, and most organizations have a massive digital footprint is what really we're discovering. So we basically help you to find all of your websites, but so why is it good to find all of your websites? Well, it's, firstly things like your brand image, making sure that the customers find the right information that they're looking for, or your prospective customers, making sure your customer experience is exactly where you want it to be. Because if you've got websites dating back from 5 years ago, you may have content on them that is really not what you want your customers to see anymore, and that needs to be up to date. In addition to those kind of more softer and content related topics, there's a lot of kind of very hard and fast things like security, compliance, also staying in the law with accessibility, and also doing the right thing. Another fantastic topic that's just coming up is sustainability. So doing the right thing for the environment. The amount of energy that the internet uses, and each of our websites is contributing to this, is vast. And so I think it's becoming a very key indicator for most boards of organizations, is to realize actually what is our sustainability footprint, how do we improve it. And so we are also looking at that in terms of how do we measure how sustainable our website is? How do we measure how good for the planet our website is? So yeah, keeping in touch with that. So a couple of the other topics are things like quality measurement, so SEO, also performance. How fast is my website? How is that contributing to my customer's experience, and so forth. So this is why domain discovery really is important. So how do we do the domain discovery? Well, there's two main areas. We look at what we call vertical domain and horizontal domains. So vertical domains are things like subdomains, basically maps.google.com and scholar.google.com are both on google.com, but Google also owns YouTube and also owns blogger.com. So this is the horizontal. Within your organization, what you need to do is really find all of the domain names you own, and then within each of the domain names, find all the subdomains within that. And what that naturally leads to is a registry, and that registry can very quickly, even for a small organization, get very large. And that's where the complexity comes in. That's where the interest comes in. That's where the management and the oversight and the governance comes in. And what we're seeing is that the tooling isn't yet there. That's where we're trying to help. So quick look at where we get data from. We use several subdomain finding tools. So there are quite a few out there, some open source and closed source. What we use is quite a variety of them to really get the biggest data set we can. Most of the subdomain finding tools gather data from things like your DNS entries, your SSL certificate entries, and also looking through search engine results to find unique subdomains. So that's kind of where we get the data from. Just want to look at a quick audit we've done for today's presentation on some of the top global universities. And so basically I thought, since we're in Denmark, we might as well have a look at a couple of the Danish universities, and seeing the number here is how many websites or subdomains they have of the main domain. So this is the University of Copenhagen. We found 8,500 subdomains of this subdomain. The University of Aarhus, where Jonas usually is it has 4,800 subdomains. So I think it's interesting to kind of look and just see across. We looked at some German universities, seeing Heidelberg there with 63,500. And then University of Paris with 69 subdomains, so totally throwing the data out completely. You do see these anomalies sometimes. You look at the UK, some of the top UK universities, again, in the, some close to 100,000. Bear in mind, this is just off their main domain. So I think it starts to help just think about the size of the problem. Then let's look at another organization. Let's look at Boy and Company. And what we found there was a series of subdomains. And I think this is very typical of every organization. So you can see that there are subdomains created for the different locations, and then subdomains created for the different years. And actually this is all very neat, actually, when we looked into it, because the older subdomains are redirecting, usually to the home page and so on. But it very, very quickly we gather these subdomains. So there's quite a serious issue in terms of the data. So we can get all this data, that's great. And as usual with data, there are quality challenges. So I just thought I wanted to highlight some of these to you quickly. The automated discovery, while producing the incredibly valuable data, also creates tons of hay around hiding the needles. So the needles are the good things. I'll give you an example. For a large global university recently, we found immediately, so they knew of 10 to 15,000 websites that they were managing and were managed in their CMS and various CMSs. Within a couple of days, we managed to find 600 valuable, unique, actual websites, but that was within a list of 25,000. So we found 25,000 new subdomains for them. Wading through all of those, we got down to a figure of 600 that were legitimate, that were of business interest. So I think that is probably representative of what we see with the data, where you get a whole lot of data, you've got to wade through a lot of it to actually get to the gems. There are gems there, though. So a lot of the tooling that we're working on, a lot of the lessons we're learning are around those use cases. How do we get through this amount of data to the valuable things? So an example here at Harvard, I just want to show you what the non-valuable data looks like. So we do a search for something like DHCP. Harvard, of the 100,000 odd subdomains they have, 8,000 of them are this DHCP kind of thing, which is probably some sort of IT, DNS type setup that has somehow created all of these. Now, business is not necessarily interested in these domains. The challenge is when we rerun any domain discovery, any subdomain finding tool is going to bring these 8,000 back up. And if we manage this in a spreadsheet or something similar, we're going to go through the learnings time and time again to how do we, what do we ignore and what do we keep? What has business value? What do we just want to sideline because it's just technical stuff? So this is the kind of difficult data that we need to exclude from our reporting.
So can I just ask a question, because I feel like I need some clarification before, so I understand the follow-on slides. And sorry for the background noise here. So the subdomains, are they actually from the own company, like KU or AU would have those subdomains created themselves, or is it also third parties trying to copy the universities and try and hijack their brand and stuff? Is it or is it both?
Great question. The data we just looked at for the universities like Aarhus University, that is subdomains of their main domain. So they are the only people who really can legitimately create a subdomain because they own the domain. So those numbers I showed you earlier are legitimately created by each of them.
But they're obviously need to be weeded out, but because a lot of that is probably old or redundant or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Good.
And then you
Thank
take
you.
on a challenge, which is very interesting, which is you've got something called subdomain or subjacking, which is hijacking subdomains and that is becoming, it's a very serious security concern that someone within an organization creates myamazoncloud.au.dk, and then they leave the organization, and hackers exploit a hole in Amazon in order to overtake one subdomain of several thousand, and from there they can then influence the main website.
That's interesting. Thank you.
So subjacking is a bit of a challenge there. So obviously we've been buying domain names for years. Everyone has a domain name, and you manage your emails and your hosting through, typically through your hosting provider. So you've got some sort of domain management tools already, and they're very good. They help you buy domain names, they help you track and so on. Really what I see is that they don't manage the challenges that we're seeing these organizations have, which is really what they don't look at right now and don't provide solutions for, is around really your subdomain management, the business ownership. That's the most important thing. They don't help you to separate the wheat from the chaff, so ignore the things you don't want to see anymore. They also don't do anything around really version history of changes, and also around quality measurement reporting. So these are the kind of typical domain tools right now. I don't see anything yet that is meeting the needs of the customers we're working with. I'll be interested to see if anyone does find one. So we work with a lot of universities. They're obviously very large organizations, but many organizations really have a lot of these challenges. So it's a huge digital estate with thousands of websites, dozens or hundreds of content management systems, unclear ownership of these domains, sites, pages, assets, and staying compliant with regulations and brand standards is very difficult. And as a result, poor customer experience can result from that. So I just want to show you a couple of views of some of the solutions we've been building. This is the kind of simple and one of my favorite, which is we've got down here a list of subdomains. And then what we've done is built a registry. So we've given ownership, we've agreed ownership of this domain to John Edwards, and this finance domain to Jenny Ray. And you can do things like categorize, and you can automatically recheck the status of each individual subdomain, and you can schedule these things, etc. So this for me is the key, is the site owner is finding the data and finding someone in the business or in the organization who says, yes, I'll be responsible for that. I know there may be issues with it, they're XYZ, but we're working internally to work on those challenges. Another thing that people are finding very useful is to basically visualize by business areas. So to take your estate and then visually categorize it to see what areas of the organization own most of the websites across the organization. This is quite a fun one. So each of these here is a subdomain, and then we're looking at sort of what CMS is it running, what version of a CMS, and then things like accessibility reporting, SSL reporting, performance reporting, SEO reporting. And so I like this view because you see across a wide range of sites, a wide range of key kind of performance indicators. Also, what's important is to kind of keep these things over time and so forth. So this is another example, policies. So in the graveyard, the content graveyard, that is the footer of every website, we keep all of the important things like statements and policies and so forth. And actually, what you probably want as an organizational owner in the legal department and the brand department is to make sure that your policies and your statements and your trademarks and your copyrights and so forth are represented accurately on every single one of your digital pages, so that you really have control over that. And that's one of the kind of reports that is interesting to run, so you can look across all your subdomains and then say, did we find the privacy report? Did we find the accessibility statement? Are our terms and conditions on that website? So this kind of basic Boolean yes/no approach really helps to, again, filter through and say, what do we need to be concerned with? security issues on these sites are obviously a concern. Okay, let's give those to IT. Here's a bunch of sites that we probably need to close down because we don't have business ownership. They have security problems. They're out of compliance with brand. So it's the speed of reporting is crucial when we have this many things to go through. Here's an example just of an SSL check. So again, the subdomains, and then seeing is the SSL certificate still valid? Who's it issued to? How many days left till it expires? When you go through that many websites, you'll see many different status codes and responses of pages. And this is a very common one, is that our original URL that we find does a 302 or a 301 and redirects eventually to a 200 and resolves. So we found that we need to kind of show the whole redirect chain because actually this URL is now updated to something else. Timeouts are also fun with many different hosting providers and so on. You need to be able to specify when you want to time out and how you capture it. Other interesting things are, if you run this report every month, you want to see really what's new. What websites did I have last month that have disappeared this month from my organization, and also what has changed. So what pages have updated. So this kind of delta reporting month on month is hugely useful. Kind of following on from that is version history. So every time you see a subdomain, take a screenshot of it, take the technical information and the content information that you can, and then show it visually so you can see the difference between the old version and the new version. This is really my favorite topic, is bringing together automation with humans, and how do we work together. And I don't think the answer is spreadsheets. I think it's web applications and digital applications. And so get the computers to do all the reporting and make it easy for the human beings to make decisions and understand what that data is telling us. Quick look at some of the other challenges we find on so many websites. So Chrome privacy warnings. You might be able to get to a website, but actually you have to click all sorts of buttons through Chrome to let the website load. We need to help our customers understand that their websites are showing this as well. And if I just quickly show you how many different types there are. So in search results, you might see things like this. You might see phishing attack ahead. You might see site contains harmful programs. These things are not fantastic for our brands, and we really need to understand when these are being exposed through our subdomains. Site ahead contains malware, so forth. So really what we do there is we will indicate if there's a privacy concern for this URL, even though it does resolve eventually. It's important that we kind of highlight that in a very easy way for brand owners to see. So a couple of the important learnings from our journey. A central team really cannot manage a web registry entirely by themselves. We've worked with a few central teams now for 2 to 3 years. Even if you get your registry down to say 1,500 sites, it's too many websites to actually manage the metadata for. What we've learned works is to subdivide your organization into some key teams, and then bring those teams into the process and help them be the owners once they identify. So for that, we actually create specific views of our reports, which are really cut down. And also we create rules to automatically categorize URLs. So working with a lot of universities would have things like maths dot would be in a URL. If we see that, we should automatically assign it to the maths department. And then the maths department have the ability to review that, but we're one step closer to really sort of finding the ownership. Also, we have like an unassigned list. So every month when the report's ready, the business owners can then see, and these include the ones who are away from the central team, can look through this unassigned list and say, actually, that's a new website that we launched this month. I should make sure that it's understood that it belongs to our department, our college, our faculty, whatever that part is. Summary of the benefits. So really it's to stay informed and in control of your entire web estate, to understand the quality levels and the accessibility of all websites, to monitor the customer experience by eliminating rogue sites, save time by automating and monitoring changes for you, agreeing the ownerships of sites within your organization, and really what it helps to do is improve communication and control across the digital organization. We do offer a free domain discovery report for Boy and Company members. We've run a couple already for Boy members, so please get in touch and let us know if we can help with that.
Thank you, Gavin. I think you definitely, just like you did 2 years ago, you hit it on the head that there is a real problem here. Thank you very much for sharing an update on the insights you've gained since then. Just from looking at the meeting chat while you were busy presenting, I think totally validated that there is a need here. There is, I hate to be the one bearer of bad news. I think participants here already knew that there is a problem, but it's good to see you're focusing in on this. That won you the award for a small feature 2 years ago. We had a few points from the meeting chat to pick up on. Perhaps one way to start would be Carrie Hain from the US, who wrote, "As much as I love spreadsheets, they are rarely the way to get others to understand and solve problems."
Yeah.
I'll offer you a chance to for a rebuttal.
Absolutely. No, so I'm sorry if I wasn't clear, but yeah, I agree. I don't like spreadsheets. So we bring together the data, and because you can't, you can't manage things properly in a spreadsheet. You can't really easily keep version history of each individual item, comment in a clear way, bring automated data in with business data. I know that spreadsheets allow all of those tools, but they just, in my opinion, don't do it well. And people don't use spreadsheets like that.
Yeah. And to be clear, I was reiterating your point that spreadsheets aren't the answer. There's probably a spreadsheet behind all of this, right? But that's not what you show people.
Yeah, it's a database. Yeah. The key thing is that most people will get all this data, give it to some member of staff. They'll do tons of work, and then it'll all just be forgotten about. And that's what we're avoiding is, manage it properly, manage these parts of your estate. They're almost like individual pages of a website. There's that many of them now. And before we had content management systems, we would manage pages just on people's desktops in HTML, and we eventually realized we couldn't do it that way. And I think domain discovery is really at that point that it needs proper management.
All right. Both Copenhagen University and also Ocean University also heard your calling.
Oh, really?
Johannes, do you want to just briefly say hi?
Yeah, I'll just turn on the microphone. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
I didn't know that you were joining. That's funny.
It's amazing. Yeah, we know we have a lot. Actually, I think we have within the CMS a very similar interface to this. So all the websites in the CMS we actually have a pretty good grasp about. But we have a lot of other systems using the KUDK domain, and that is a big problem because we don't have that kind of overview that this would get.
And the solution that was shared in the chat was also, which +1 by Simon, that was actually you, Guy from Radio Meta.
Is that a tool, domain management tool?
No, I think Guy Purcell, he wrote, key is having centralized DNS management for all brand domains.
Yes, it's that in itself is a challenge. Also, not everything is through DNS, and it's what about the stuff that bolted last week before we managed to get management in place? That's the challenge, is now the numbers are already too big.
And then Simon from Cambridge asked if you have automated alerts API for spotting critical issues more easily in external tools.
Yes, that's what we're exactly working on right now. So we have alerting, and really we're working on what are the rules around what are you interested in knowing, to fine tune that balance of not spamming you, but it's important that different times based on the criticality of an issue.
That sounds useful. Like those examples you showed on the SSL errors in Chrome, that kind of thing is obviously really useful to spot. or expiry dates if someone's forgotten not to renew somehow, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the softer ones around privacy and content are quite difficult because there's not much technically that comes back. So yeah, it's not like a status code or a date. So you have to kind of look through and find how Google or Safari are showing us these things.
Yeah.
You know, they're protecting the end user. But yeah, there's a lot of exceptions that we need to cater for.
All right, let's jump to Guy Purcell. I think could work now. Yep, there you go.
Hi Gavin. Is there a way of crawling all top-level domains? So DK, FR, D, and all that? Because this is subdomain crawling, right?
Yeah.
And for example, if you have multiple operating companies locally, each with their own top-level domain, you want some kind of overview. Would that be then searching subdomains within each top-level domain?
So there are various flavors of it. So you've got, for each organization, you've got a top level domain. They may own 5 domains. Each of those 5 may have 10 subdomains. So you've now got 50. The subdomain can have a subdomain. So you could have 10 within one of those. And so really you don't know. And yeah. And then also we're not even crawling at that stage. We're actually just looking at the registry. We're looking at DNS, SSL, and search engine results. If you really then take each of those and crawl them, so find all the pages within, it opens up. That's, then you open up more management. At that point, you get into, CMS and that, I think.
Yeah.
Thanks. All right. We're coming up at the end. As promised in the past, I will try to get this together. I will also share, of course, your slides. Gavin, thank you very much for preparing this.
Thanks, Janus. Thank you.
Eye-opening to see how many websites are out there, and really inspiring to hear that even though you shared it very early in the beginning, that you're also beginning to look at sustainability. I think that's a point for us to look at in the future that's totally unregulated at this point.
Yeah.
But I think organizations, as they are embracing sustainability in all kinds of ways, need to look at the digital, the carbon footprint of the digital presence as well. I think it was James Cannings from MMT Digital who said that it was a little known secret that the internet consumes more energy than the airline industry. And thinking about how many websites you have out there with bells and whistles and icons that are rotating and all these things, is that really what you need?
Yeah.
Thank you, Gavin, for circling back to this almost 18 months later. Thank you for preparing it. Thank you, everybody who joined us. That's it for now. We'll be in touch soon and hope to see you next week for voice content. Thank you, Gavin.
Thanks, Ed. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Nice to see you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.